She didn't celebrate the small success. As her danger-sensing ability went haywire, Mirko rapidly jumped away and broke into a sprint towards Best Jeanist. The blonde hero didn't even know what happened before he felt as if a car crashed into him when Mirko abruptly grabbed him in her sprint and started running away with him in her arms. And it was just in the nick of time. A second later, All for One fired the most powerful air cannon that Mirko had ever seen him do.
It happened in the blink of an eye. In an instant, the entire street and the buildings surrounding it were raised off the surface of the earth. Hero, villains, HPSC personnel, policemen, nothing survived. Everyone and everything that was caught in the range of his air cannon was pulverized. Only 3 people survived: Endeavor, who had been blasted away a few moments before, Mirko, and Best Jeanist, whom she had carried away.
Nonetheless, Mirko and Best Jeanist hadn't managed to fully evade the range of the attack either, and were slammed violently into a wall, knocking them unconscious too.
Using a radar-like quirk to detect life signatures, All for One realized the Mirko, Best Jeanist, and Endeavor were only knocked unconscious, not dead. Therefore, he raised his arms and aimed in their direction in order to deal the finishing blow.
Air cannon.
Chapter 44: Bitterness.
The sudden eruption of the civil war in Japan did not go unnoticed by the rest of the world. After news of All for One's massacre at the National Diet Building went out, television channels from all over the world started showing scenes and footage from the army of villains march through the boulevards of Tokyo as they headed towards the Hero Safety Public Commission's headquarters.
Across the ocean, in the United States of America, the Uzumaki family was watching the news with bated breath as well. The news channel wasn't showing anything from the Uahai. After all, the attack was too sudden, and the villains had launched coordinated attacks on hero agencies all over the country. The news channel was focused on Tokyo and All for One.
The moment that the rabbit hero Mirko appeared on the screen, they all became tense. Little Era didn't fully understand how terrifying All for One was, but Minato and Kushina did. Kushina and the side of her family had hidden in fear of All for One for 3 generations, and Minato used to be the ace of HPSC's Black Ops organization. Root. He was privy to information about AFO that even Kushina didn't know.
That being said, the 2 of them, especially Kushina, were biting their nails as they watched Mirko, Endeavor, Ryaku, and Best Jeanist engage All for One in battle.
Minato! Kushina called out his name as she grabbed him by the forearm in worry.
You know I can't do that, dear. Rumi-san would never forgive me if I popped over and took her away.
But,
Kushina didn't continue what she was about to say. After all, over the past 2 years, the 2 of them have become very close to Usagiyama Rumi. She was their son's girlfriend and their future daughter-in-law. They were practically family at this point. They knew that Mirko would never back away from a fight. The family of 3 cheered whenever the heroes managed to land a good hit on AFO and gasped when AFO blasted them away. They were on the edge of their seats the entire time. Eventually, the scene of All for One destroying the entire street with an overpowered air cannon blast came up too, and Minato was quick to cover Eri's eyes and hug her head to his chest, preventing her from seeing the death and destruction AFO caused. When the camera showed Mirko and Best Jeanist unconscious bodies lying among the ruined buildings and All for One raising his hand to cast another attack at them, Minato knew what he had to do.
Air cannon. Just as Efo raised his hand and said those words, a blonde-haired man appeared out of thin air between the number 3 and number 5 heroes and whisked them away. All 3 of them disappeared with a yellow flash.
Minato teleported back to Tokyo, trying to save Endeavor as well. However, the powerful air cannon blast that AFO fired after he left further destroyed the already ruined city block, making a large depression appear in the ground. The unconscious number 2 hero perished in that attack too. I've never seen or heard about someone like you before. Who are you? All for One asked. In his rush, Minato didn't have time to grab his root mask, so AFO could see his face. The only saving grace was that the helicopters filming the scene were too far away for the public at large to get a good look at this face. Well, no matter. But that's quite the quirk you have there. I want it. All for One said in an avaricious tone and laughed as 10 ribbit tendrils grew from his fingers to strike at Minato. But Minato didn't entertain him with an answer. First of all, he was not there to stop All for One. He only came there to rescue his soon-to-be daughter-in-law. Secondly, he had never had any sort of special loyalty to Japan. He had only ever been loyal to one person, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the previous leader of Root and the person who had brought him into the organization. But Mr. Sarutobi had long since passed away. Nowadays, Minato was living exclusively for the sake of his family. The government could fall and the whole country could burn. None of that mattered to him as long as his family was safe. Lastly, Minato was not the type to fight head-on against someone. He had been raised and trained to become an assassin, not a brawler.
Therefore, when AFO fired his rivet stab at him, Minato didn't remain to fight. He teleported away.
AFO's rivet stab hit nothing but air as the blonde man disappeared in a yellow flash. He looked around, curious to see where he would pop up from the next time. However, 30 seconds passed but the teleporter had yet to come back. AFO waited another 30 seconds.
I guess he isn't coming back. What a pity.
He hadn't even finished saying those words when his radar quirk picked up a life signature appearing not even 1 meter behind his back.
He turned around rapidly, just in time to see Minato pull the pin of a hand grenade before calmly putting it down in a box.
If AFO had eyes, they would have widened at the sight of it. A wooden crate, roughly 80 centimeters long, 40 centimeters wide, and 20 centimeters deep. It was a storage unit containing 50 hand grenades. I hope you'll enjoy my gift, Minato said before taking his hand off the grenade's lever and teleporting away.
A powerful explosion boomed. The Lord of Crime, All for One, had bid his time and grown his forces for many years. When he finally struck, his attack was swift and decisive.
It took only 1 day for the Japanese government to fall. The entire parliament had been massacred, hundreds of pro-heroes across the country had been killed by villains, and even the number 1, number 2, and number 10 pro-heroes in the country lost their lives too.
The fact that All Might was killed shook not only Japan, but the Western world too. Back in his prime, All Might had been an internationally recognized hero due to his overwhelming strength and just character. He had left his mark in the USA, and he had single-handedly installed an era of peace and prosperity in Japan. But now, that titan, that incredible individual was dead, killed by a bioengineered creature controlled by the villains. Many hero agencies were burned and vandalized by the Liberation Army, and the regular police forces that tried to stop them were killed mercilessly.
The losses on the side of the villains were equally heavy, with the Liberation Army having lost thousands, but All for One had never cared about them, proof of that being that he had annihilated everyone in his assault on the HPSC headquarters, foes and allies alike. The only thing that mattered to him was that All Might was dead and that he had finally won. The remains of the Japanese government and the surviving members of the Hero Public Safety Commission appealed to the USA and the United Nations, asking for international help, but the response they received was lukewarm at best. Words of sympathy were all that they had gotten. The main reason for that was that All for One did not step out in the open to publicly lead the government or declare himself the emperor. Instead, after the government's fall, Kobu Hanabata stepped in front of the public and took on the role of becoming the new government's figurehead. Kobu Hanabata, together with Re Destro and the rest of the politicians who had been bought by the AFO and the Liberation Army, had not been at the National Diet building when the massacre occurred.
By making use of his insight quirk and working in tandem with Tomoyasu Chikazuku, also known as Skeptic, who brought to light all of HPSC en route's classified documents and exposed their dirty laundry. They controlled the mass media to demonize the previous government and paint the Liberation Army and their coup d'etat in a better light, showing it as something that was necessary to happen in order to cut off the cancer in the Japanese society.
2 days passed since the fall of the Japanese government, and that was still everything that most media outlets around the globe talked about. Even in the USA, the criminal organizations and the villains' level of activity spiked, with hero agencies and the FBI having to work overtime to keep up with them. The government of Japan's fall was a huge reason for concern for the world at large. Japan was a country with over 130 million people and a strong hero presence, with nearly 15,000 active pro-heroes. More importantly, it was the country where the legendary All Might lived and operated. If such a country could fall into the hands of the villains, how many other countries could boldly claim something like that would never happen to them?
As he read an article named Todoroki Family's Secrets, Naruto let out a sigh. Endeavor died in battle against All for One, but it looked like the villains were still not done with him.
It was the same not only for Hero Public Safety Commission and Endeavor but for many other heroes and public figures in Japan too. Skeptic and other members of the Liberation Army were digging out all sorts of secrets from their past and publicizing them, showing the entire world the hidden, ugly side of the previous society for the sake of justifying their coup d'etat. His sensitive hearing picking up a change in Mirko's breathing pattern, Naruto put down his tablet and looked up. The rabbit girl seemed to have woken up. "Naruto, where am I?"
She tried sitting up, but a sudden jolt of pain made her wince and dissuaded her from doing so. What happened? Momentarily, she couldn't remember how she had gotten hurt.
Naruto stood up from his couch and came to sit on the edge of her bed.
"Hey," he smiled, happy to see her awake. "You fought against All for One. You were injured."
A look of realization flashed on her face as her memories all came back to her. The villains' attack, the National Diet Building massacre, a foe's assault on the HPSC HQ, and her battle against AFO.
"How am I still alive? Did you save me?" she asked. "No, my dad did."
"What about Best Jeanist and Endeavor?"
"He rescued Best Jeanist too when he came after you. He's in the hospital now. But he was too late to save Endeavor."
Mirko winced as she tried to sit up again. Taking pity on her, he helped her do it by lifting her from her armpits and placing a pillow behind her back. "What hospital? I don't know if it's safe. I wouldn't put it past those damn villains to launch an attack on hospitals too."
"Relax, he is safe. You're safe too. We're not in Japan anymore," Naruto said, taking her hand in his and squeezing it to comfort her.
"Not in Japan, you mean?"
"We're at my parents' place in the USA. Currently, we're in a suburb of Jacksonville, Florida. It's the home that your mom prepared for us. Best Jeanist is at a hospital here in Jacksonville too." As she started calming down, Rumi noticed that Naruto's entire torso and arms were bandaged too under the orange t-shirt he wearing. "You're injured too?" "Yes, the villains attacked UA High too."
At her worried look, he continued, "Most of the students managed to evacuate unharmed. The principal's escape measures were very thorough, and the professors and some of the strongest students bought time for the rest to evacuate. I was one of the few who stayed until the end."
"I see. How long was I out? What's the situation like in Japan?" Rumi asked.
"It's not good," Naruto said, and he sighed again. "All Might is dead. He was killed by a high-end Nomu. It was a Nomu similar to the one the two of us fought at USJ 2 years ago, but stronger. If that's not bad enough, the government was overthrown too. I suspect that the few politicians who were not present at the National Diet Building 2 days ago were either bought by All for One or coerced into working for him. The mass media in Japan isn't saying anything about the atrocities that the villains committed. They're only talking about the many crimes that HPSC's Black Ops committed in the dark, trying to make it look like a revolution was needed." Naruto and Rumi didn't say anything for some time.
"What now? Is there any resistance?" What are the rest of the heroes doing? She asked after a while, but he shrugged his shoulders. I don't know much, but Dad teleported to Japan a few times over the past 2 days. He told me there wasn't any resistance. The population is too terrified by the hundreds of villains marching the streets in every city. The police forces who tried to resist were decimated by the villains, and it's estimated that nearly half of the pro-heroes were killed on the first day of the attacks. That guy, Kobu Hanabata, the mouthpiece of the new government, even went as far as to put a hit on the pro-heroes, calling for them to turn themselves in to the police for the sake of being re-evaluated. It's over. Hey, don't talk like that. It's not like you to give up that easily, Naruto, Mirko said. But he shook his head and said in a somber voice,
I may have won the battle at Uehai, but the heroes lost the war. Rumi-chan, All for One's forces were too much. Experts say he had an army of over 100,000 villains on his side when he attacked. All Might is dead, half of the pro-heroes lost their lives, and the rest went into hiding. The government was massacred, and the HPSC was annihilated too. On top of all that, somehow, we don't even have public opinion on our side. All for One's men keep digging out and publicizing the dark secrets of the HPSC and its Black Ops route, and there are even articles about Endeavor and the terrible things he did to his family. It's not about giving up, it's about accepting reality. I don't know what we could possibly do now. What can the two of us alone do against 100,000 villains in AFO? As a master manipulator, All for One didn't neglect the importance of the actions that he had to take in the aftermath of the Civil War. The campaign he started for the sake of smearing the good name of the pro-heroes and the HPSC was proof that he had thoroughly thought out his plans before taking action. He had had years to prepare for his return. Hearing him say those words, Rumi realized that the situation was even worse than she had thought at first. She decided to hold her tongue until she saw what happened with her own eyes and got a better understanding of what had transpired. Can you help me stand? I need to use the bathroom. Forget about walking on your own, I'll carry you there, Naruto said as he took off the blanket covering her. Aren't you injured too?
It's just some minor stab wounds. Don't worry, he said, picking her up in a princess carry.
Come to think of it, why didn't you ask Eri-chan to fix you up? Rumi asked curiously as she rested her head on his shoulder. Eri-chan's quirk takes a long time to store power, so I'd rather not make her use it on me for some superficial wounds. I want her to use her quirk on Izuku. He got injured so badly that I don't think doctors can salvage his right arm anymore. I'm worried about him. Dad tried to find him when he went back to Japan, but Izuku wasn't in Musudafu's hospitals, and his mother wasn't at their home either. Principal Nezu must have taken them both and hidden them away. Once Mirko called for Naruto to take her out of the bathroom, he carried her into the living room. At the sight of her brother carrying the rabbit girl in his arms, Eri was the first to yell out in glee.
Rumi-chan.
Despite the gloom she was feeling due to what happened in her country and to her friends and fellow heroes, at that moment, Rumi couldn't help smiling at the bubbly little girl's happiness at seeing her. Hearing Eri's shout, Kushina also came in from the balcony.
Rumi-chan. I'm so glad you're okay, she said, throwing her arms around Naruto's and Rumi's necks, and kissing them both on the cheek. It's good to see you too, Mother, Rumi said, flushing a bit at Kushina's overly affectionate mothering. Kushina laughed happily at the way Mirko referred to her.
Come, let us all go outside, in the garden. Eri had been watching a cartoon on the TV in the living room when Naruto came in carrying Rumi, but she forgot all about it when she saw them and followed them out of the house. Rumi squinted her eyes when they went outside, and she was faced with the strong light from the sun. Due to the AC running inside the house, she hadn't realized how hot it was outside. The Uzumaki family's new home didn't have a huge yard, but the garden was well kept and tastefully arranged, and the wooden patio with its square table and plush chairs looked homely and lovely.
Rumi-san, you're up and walking again. Minato put down the shovel he was working with, and came to talk to them.
Not exactly walking, she chuckled. But it's great to see you too. Thank you for saving me, father.
Minato laughed and rubbed the back of his head in slight embarrassment, with Kushina grinning all the while at him.
Of course, we're family, but even if we weren't, how could I not come for you after how many times you saved my son's ass? He said, making everyone chuckle. A genuine expression of happiness appeared on Rumi's face. She was still having trouble getting used to how affectionate and loving Naruto's parents were. She had never felt anything like that growing up in the orphanage, and by the time she and her mother got in touch again, Mirko was a teenager. It was during her rebellious Gyaru phase when she didn't want to have anything to do with the mother who didn't raise her. Her despise for Usagiyama Yua's promiscuous behavior didn't help matters either, so, to this day, Rumi and her mother have never had a strong relationship. It wasn't comparable to how close Naruto and his parents were.
Nevertheless, at that moment, Rumi was forced to reconsider her feelings for her mother. She realized that the fact that Naruto's family was safe and living in a nice home in the United States of America was all thanks to her mother. Despite her flaws and irresponsible behavior at times, Usagiyama Yua did love her daughter in her own way. She loved her so much that her affection extended even to her boyfriend and his family.
The evacuation system that Principal Nezu had created had cost him his entire life's savings and more. Although Cementos and the excavation hero, Higuri Maijima, had played a crucial role in shortening the construction time and lowering the costs of the project, even with Nezu's genius-level intellect, it hadn't been easy to acquire such an immense sum of money. That being said, the colossal project had paid off spectacularly. Due to his foresight, all the students and professors at UA High managed to evacuate safely. All except for the ones who had stayed behind to hold off the villains and buy them time to escape. Initially, UA High, Shikatsu High School, and several other hero schools were connected through an underground evacuation system. It was so that if one of the hero schools was attacked, they could evacuate to another. However, with all the hero schools having been targeted by the Liberation Army simultaneously, Principal Nezu couldn't go to any of them. He had to opt for Plan B, going to a special underground facility that nobody except for a few people close to him knew about. 2 days after the villains' attack on the UA High, all the students and professors who had evacuated were still in that secret facility.
There is enough food, water, and power for us to survive here for at least 2 months, Principal Nezu thought. Recovery Girl was taking care of any injured students and professors, with Eraserhead and Midoriya Izuku having priority due to how grave their injuries were. Lunch Rush was responsible for preparing everyone's meals, while Midnight, Present Mike, Vlad King, and the others were keeping the order among students.
However, we can't do that. I can't keep all these students here for so long. Not only that the children have already started to become restless and anxious due to being separated from their families, but the main problem is that there is a traitor in our midst. A traitor that we still haven't smoked out. That means that All for One will find out about this facility soon too, if he hasn't found out about it already.
The suspicion that there was a traitor among students or professors became a certainty once Cementos brought back the fatally injured Shota Aizawa, who told them what had transpired after he regained consciousness thanks to Recovery Girl's care and treatment.
Someone impersonated Snipe to backstab Eraserhead, and then, from what Cementos and the boys from Class 3A said, that someone also copied Eraserhead's quirk and cancelled All Might's quirk, causing his death. There are 2 options. Either Snipe helped that villain sneak into the school, betraying us, or Snipe is innocent, probably even dead, and that villain infiltrated the school with someone else's help.
While Nezu was deep in thought, Present Meg's voice brought him back into the present. Principal, a student from the 3A class wants to speak with you. Apparently, it's urgent.
Who is it? What happened? Asked Nezu. He wouldn't say. He insisted on talking to you and only to you. It's Yuga Aoyama from Class 3A. The principal interlocked his fingers and rested his chin on his hands in thought. He knew who Yuga Aoyama was. He knew all the hero course students in his school by name, and not only. Yuga Aoyama was ordinary from every point of view. His grades were average to low, his quirk strength and versatility were average to low too, and his parents were normal people too. The only thing that was slightly special about him was that he came from a wealthier family than average.
Let him in, Nezu said. But I would like you to keep a watch on us without his notice.
Present Mike showed a surprised face as understanding dawned on him. Principal, are you saying that he might be a? I don't know, Nezu said, shaking his head. I hope it is not what I'm afraid of. But I can't take any risks in our current situation. Too many things are at stake. Better safe than sorry. Quote. I understand, Present Mike said and went out to bring the boy into Nezu's room. Nezu's level of alertness rose the moment Yuga Aoyama stepped into the room, and he got to see his distraught facial expression and anxious body language. Once he saw the boy taking a seat on the chair in front of Principal Nezu's desk, Present Mike left the room, seemingly oblivious to the mood. Hello, Aoyama-san, Nezu said in a tired, but kind voice. What is it that you wish to talk to me about? Aoyama was wrenching his fingers and biting his lower lip nervously, all the while looking down at the desk, unable to meet his eyes.
Aoyama-san. As he raised his head and finally looked the principal in the eyes, Aoyama burst into tears. I'm sorry, Sensei. I'm sorry. Aoyama-san, what's wrong? What happened? Nezu asked, standing up from his seat. It was me. I'm sorry. I didn't want to do it. But I didn't have a choice. I'm so sorry.
His heart-wrenching crying and his loud voice could be heard perfectly from outside the room, and Present Mike burst through the door in a hurry, thinking that those were Aoyama's last words before he was going to attack the principal. However, after getting inside, he saw that the boy showed no signs of aggression whatsoever. He was just crying bitterly, desperately.
Chapter 45. Rewind. He has my parents. I have to do what he says, but I can't doom so many lives.
What should I do? I don't know what to do. A loud screeching sound was heard as Principal Nezu suddenly jumped up from his seat and the chair dragged against the floor.
Why? What's going on? Aoyama shouted when he was hit with a prickling sensation all over his body, and he saw several cracks appearing on his hands. Present Mike, who had come into Nezu's office earlier, rushed at the principal. A bad feeling crept into his heart at the sight of the cracks that started appearing on the boy's face, neck, and arms.
Principal, Present Mike shouted as he grabbed Nezu by the arm and threw himself together with him through the open door, out of the office.
What's happening to me? Aoyama cried out in terror.
At that moment, a deep, malevolent voice rang in his head. Aoyama Yuga, you have betrayed me.
Eyes widening in realization, the boy started shouting in desperation. No, please no.
I thought that holding your parents hostage would be enough to keep you obedient. You have disappointed me.
Don't do it! Please don't do it! The boy begged.
But I know better than anyone how fickle the human heart is. I knew you couldn't be fully trusted. Nobody can. That's why I made preparations in case you decided to betray me. As All for One's telepathic message ended, the cracks extended over Yuga's entire body, and a second later, the office was rocked by a powerful explosion. Luckily, Present Mike and Nezu managed to escape in time, but the blast wrecked the room completely.
Alerted by the unexpected explosion, Midnight and Vlad King were quick to arrive at the scene, and many other curious students came to find out what happened too. This is bad. No, this is terrible. was the first thing that Nezu said when he stood up.
Principal, what's going on? What happened here? Asked Professor Vlad as he stepped inside the office and saw Yuga Aoyama's charred, lifeless body. He was an agent of All for One, the leader of the League of Villains and the Meta Liberation Army. Goodness gracious, we've been compromised. Present Mike himself had watched it all happen with his own eyes, but he was no less confused than the other two teachers either. He tried to come out clean and betray All for One, but it appears that AFO has a way of monitoring his subordinates. If that's the case, then it means that he knows about our escape method and about this bunker too. At Nezu's explanation, a grave look appeared on the three pro-heroes' faces.
We have to move out, and we have to do it fast.
Although only 2 days had passed since her battle with All for One in Tokyo, Rumi was already up and able to walk by herself. Currently, she and Naruto were walking hand in hand on Jacksonville's Long Beach, admiring the sight of the red and orange rays of the sun reflecting in the clear, blue ocean.
The weather was warm, and a pleasant breeze was blowing. The two lovebirds couldn't take their eyes off each other as they walked, chatting and laughing together. Seeing as it was at sunset, there were not as many people on the beach as earlier in the day, but nonetheless, Naruto's 6 golden foxtails were so eye-catching that many of the passing people turned their heads after him.
Mirko was no less eye-catching either, with her long white rabbit ears and her provocative outfit, a pair of white sneakers, blue jeans hot pants, which left her strong and long legs bare, and a loose crop-top pink t-shirt that somehow made her breasts look even bigger than they were already and gave people a peek at her sexy and ripped midriff. She was drop-dead gorgeous.
Then again, they were on the beach. Many other men and women were wearing even less than her.
They're talking about you. You're famous even in the United States now, Mirko said, elbowing him teasingly in the ribs.
Somehow, Japan's mass media had gotten hold of a video showing him in the form of a 6-tailed fox demon grabbing Shigaraki Namu with his golden chains and repeatedly chokeslamming him into the ground, until there was nothing but blood and gore left of his head.
It was a short clip, but that savage display of brutality had been enough for the villain-controlled mass media to jump at the chance of showing Uzumaki Naruto in a bad light, trying to paint him as some sort of unstable and violent killer who was prone to start a massacre at the drop of a hat. Unfortunately for the villains, considering that the whole world was now having its eyes pinned on Japan after the villains' coup d'etat, most people knew that the Japanese media outlets could not be trusted. Therefore, their poor attempts at vilifying and demonizing him had backfired.
Naruto had already achieved some level of notoriety overseas after the USJ incident 2 years ago, when the world found out about the existence of a Japanese boy whose Fox Quirk awakened twice in quick succession. This new footage of him being transformed into a 6-tailed demon fox and killing a Namu creature had reminded people of his name and raised his fame even more than before, to the point where even random people in the USA could recognize him on the street now.
I can hear them too, said Naruto.
The way his fluffy fox ears twitched as he caught all sorts of quiet talk and distant chatter from the passers-by was so cute that Rumi found herself cooing at the sight.
Throwing one arm around his neck, she raised herself on her tippy toes and pulled him down to press a wet and loud kiss on his cheek.
"What was that for?" he asked in surprise, but his left arm was quick to circle her waist. "You're adorable. I just couldn't help myself," she said, grinning. Before he could protest at being called adorable, after all, he was a buff, strong-looking boy in his late teens and way taller than her now. Mirko hopped into his arms like a rabbit and wrapped both her arms around his neck, covering his lips with hers and muffling his words with her mouth.
"What are you doing?" he asked after breaking the kiss, torn between feeling embarrassed and scandalized as he tried to push her away. "Everyone is looking at us." He had grown up in Japan, where it was heavily frowned upon to display one's affection in public. Even walking with his hand around Rumi's waist in public would have been enough for people to give them dirty looks, let alone if they were to be seen actually kissing and embracing each other. When Rumi wrapped her legs around his waist too, prying her off him became an impossible endeavor.
We're not in Japan anymore. The USA has no rules against PDA. I can kiss you in public all I want now, Mirko said and stole another kiss. I'm pretty freaking sure that jumping on someone in public like that isn't allowed even in the USA. Dare of me, you horny rabbit? He shot back as he tried pushing her face away from him with his hand. No, I won't, she said, keeping her arms and legs locked around him like a monkey, holding on with her entire strength. Come here, I want one more kiss, she laughed in glee. Rumi, don't make me do it, he said threateningly. Her answer was to squeeze his waist with her thighs even harder than before. Let go, or I'll really do it. Her eyes widened when Naruto's hand came to her lower back and wrapped around her fluffy bunny tail. This time, her legs tightened so hard around his waist that it was physically painful. Naruto, don't you dare, she said, having a hard time believing that he would really do something like that to her. He smirked at her panicked look. When his fingers clenched around her tail, it was as if all strength had left her body, and she became slack in his arms. Her cheeks turned red, and her breathing quickened. It was as if a switch had been flipped.
Still holding the rabbit girl in his arms, Naruto quickly bolted away with her before the people watching them from the side could figure out what was going on, not wanting to make a scene. Shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that, he thought when Rumi started kissing and biting his neck teasingly while running her hands up and down his back, groping his back muscles. Arriving in a more remote spot next to some palm trees, Naruto put Mirko down. The rabbit girl didn't resist like before, but she was still clinging closely, looking up to him with what appeared to be a mixture between a glare and a needy look on her face. Rumi headbutted his chest lightly, burying her face into his t-shirt so that Naruto would not see her embarrassed countenance anymore. He laughed quietly at her behavior, but her rabbit ears weren't just for show, so she heard him.
Yeah, laugh it out, she said in annoyance as she poked him in the ribs, making him flinch from the ticklish feeling. You know how I feel about you and how hard it is for me to hold back, but you always keep teasing me. You're just too cute, he cooed at her and blew softly into one of her rabbit ears, clearly getting back at her for how she had called him earlier.
She pinched him in retaliation, but she still didn't look up, not wanting to give him the satisfaction of seeing how red her face was. HMPF. Just you wait, we'll see who laughs best when I get my hands on you. Their flirting and teasing moment was interrupted when Naruto's new cell phone rang. Swiping his thumb on the touchscreen, he brought the phone to his ear and answered.
Yes, Dad.
Hey, Naruto, is Rumi-chan with you?
Yep, we're together. We went out for a walk on the beach. I'm sorry to cut your date short, but something urgent has just come up. It's about the situation in Japan. Can you get back home quickly? Exchanging a look with Rumi and seeing her nod at him, he replied. Sure, we'll be there in 2 minutes, he said, terminating the call.
Once he put his phone back in his pocket, Rumi was quick to jump on his back, making him give her a piggyback. While she may have recovered enough to walk, she was still not healthy enough to run at great speeds.
He smiled softly as he felt the rabbit girl's weight on his back, and her long tresses of white hair tickling his face. Her large breasts squished against him, the fresh smell of her hair, and the feeling of intimacy that came with having her cheek close to his, her arms wrapped around his neck, and her long and strong legs around his waist made it one of his favorite ways of spending time with Rumi. He had carried the rabbit girl on his back so many times over the years that it had unknowingly become a special thing for both of them, as a couple. The fact that he could freely run his hands over her thick and strong thighs was another big plus in his books.
Despite her state, Mirko pushed down her needs and feelings and didn't bother or tease Naruto as he started running home. She only gave him a caste kiss on his cheek. She didn't go any further because she could discern from the tone of Minato's voice that something must have happened. True to his words, Naruto arrived home no more than 2 minutes later. A few beads of sweat could be seen on his forehead from having sprinted on his way back, but Minato didn't comment on it as he watched him place Mirko on the sofa on his left and then take a seat on his right.
Principal Nezu. Naruto said, surprised when he saw the Ratman's face on the screen of the laptop in his father's lap. They were in the middle of a video call. Hello, Uzumaki-san. I suspect that the villains have found out the location of our bunker. The principal cut straight to the subject. There was a traitor in our midst. One of your classmates, Aoyama Yuga, was a mole of All for One. He tried to come clean and tell me the truth, but FO must have had a way of monitoring him because he exploded him.
Exploded him? Do you mean? Mirko asked. Exactly what I said. His body exploded from within. It's probably one of All for One's many quirks. The poor boy died on the spot.
Naruto was reeling from the revelation. Aoyama had always given him a strange vibe, and he did seem like a loner amongst the rest of his classmates. But he had never suspected him to actually be a spy for AFO.
The League of Villains, attack on USJ, Mineta's death, the attack on the training camp, and that poor kid's death, were these all because of Aoyama?
His right hand clenched into a fist. But he pushed down his anger and focused his attention back on Nezu, who continued speaking.
If AFO had a way of monitoring Aoyama-san, chances are that he would have found out about our shelter too. 2 days have already passed. I'm afraid that we have been compromised. We need to get away as fast as possible. I see, but I'm not sure how we are supposed to help, Naruto said. I'm in the United States now, and I don't have a passport or any legal way of traveling back to Japan. Mirko is also.
Naruto, he already knows about my quirk, Minato interrupted him.
Huh, how? Naruto asked. Considering that you were spotted in the United States so quickly after the villains' revolution, it wouldn't take a genius to deduce the fact that there is some sort of relationship between you and the mysterious teleporter who saved Mirko and Best Jeanist from Tokyo, and Principal Nezu is a super genius with an IQ of 245, Minato explained before turning his eyes to Nezu and asking, am I right?
That is correct, Nezu confirmed. Naruto was quiet for a moment. What exactly do you need us to do? The underground system of tunnels that I have created is spread all over the country for hundreds of kilometers. We could pop out from anywhere, but I don't know if Aoyama-san was the only spy that All for One has planted in our midst, or if there is another one who can take on the appearance of other people.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Asked Naruto, a vague suspicion rising in his mind. Ah, you probably didn't know. All Might's quirk wasn't cancelled by your homeroom teacher, Eraserhead, but by a villain who could transform into other people and copy their quirks. Eraserhead was stabbed in the back and left to die. He is innocent.
It was someone like Monoma from Class 3B, but they could also steal others' appearance. Damn. Naruto cussed, forgetting that he was having a conversation with a teacher. Good thing that he's dead.
Indeed, but we cannot rule out the possibility that they might not be the only ones. Therefore, I have a favor to ask of you. As ashamed as I am to depend on a student when we, the teachers, should be the ones protecting you, I cannot let my pride get in the way of keeping the rest of the children safe. Of course we're going to help, Mirko said right away. Naruto took a few seconds before saying.
What exactly do we have to do?
Your father has already agreed to help take the students to safety with his teleportation quirk. Unfortunately, there are hundreds of students, and he cannot teleport them all at once. It will take some time to get them all out. I need your help to protect everyone until all students are evacuated. Your adamantine sealing chains are the strongest quirk I know when it comes to defense.